In the savage heart of the frontier, where only the bravest dared stake their claim, James R. Lassiter saw more than just an empty valley in 1851. He saw destiny. While others passed through this desolate stretch like ghosts, Lassiter planted his flag in the form of a rough-hewn store and campground, cutting life itself from the salt-rich earth. His hands bleeding from carving sod blocks from the Cienega, he built more than shelter. He built the first foothold of civilization in a land that swallowed men whole. The valley's silence soon broke under the weight of opportunity. Like moths to flame, other hardy souls followed Lassiter's lead, raising their own sod empires from the unforgiven soil. Every new building stood as a middle finger to the wilderness, every new business a declaration that civilization had come to stay. But it was the thundering hoofbeats of 1854 that truly marked the valley's transformation. Two men, Samuel Warnock and Joseph Swikaffer, dared to tame distance itself, establishing Southern California's first regular mail route. Twice a week, their riders braved the gauntlet between San Diego and Yuma, making Vallecito more than just a rest stop. They made it a lifeline. The real revolution came howling across the frontier in the fall of 1857, when James E. Birch's Great Southern Overland Mail service connected the Atlantic to the Pacific for the first time in history. The locals called it the Jackass Mail, but there was nothing humble about this iron-willed operation. Before the Pony Express became legend, before the northern stage lines wrote their names in history, these mail carriers were already dancing with death across the southwestern trails, connecting a nation one blood-soaked mile at a time. This wasn't just mail delivery, this was the raw edge of American expansion, where every successful run was a victory against the elements, hostile tribes, and bandits who saw each mailbag as an opportunity written in lead. Vallecito stood as a crucial waypoint in this grand endeavor, a port in the storm where exhausted riders could find brief refuge before plunging back into the merciless embrace of the frontier. In 1858, the drumbeat of progress echoed through Vallecito as the legendary Butterfield Overland Stage made the station its own. No longer just a mail stop, it became a vital link in the iron chain connecting Missouri to San Francisco. Army detachments, their uniforms caked with desert dust, found respite in its shadow. The valley transformed into a crossroads of destiny, where hundreds of weary souls sought refuge from the merciless frontier. But beneath the bustle of commerce and convenience lurked darker currents. Like a serpent coiled in desert shadows, violence and tragedy made the station their home. Murder stalked its corridors, robbery darkened its doorstep, and human suffering seeped into its very walls. The station bore silent witness to the raw brutality of frontier justice and lawless greed. These blood-soaked memories, they say, refused to rest quiet in their graves. The spirits of those who met violent ends lingered, their presence as tangible as the desert wind. Among these phantoms, none rode more fearsome than the white horse of Vallecito, born from a tale of greed and gunsmoke. The story goes that 4 riders emerged from the shimmering heat waves near Carrizo Wash, their intentions as dark as their shadows. A stage carrying $65,000, a fortune that could buy a man's soul twice over, crawled through their trap like a wounded animal. Steel gleamed in the desert sun, threats hung heavy as thunder, and the driver's resistance crumbled like sand. The box of riches passed hands, and the bandits vanished into the vast emptiness, leaving behind nothing but dust and a legend that would haunt Vallecito for generations. The station became more than just a waypoint. It transformed into a crossroads between the world of the living and the dead, where every creaking floorboard might herald the approach of spirits still seeking justice or revenge. Each passing year added new layers to its dark reputation, drawing those fascinated by both its historical significance and its supernatural residents. Vallecito Station stood as a grim reminder that in the Old West, some debts were paid in blood, and some stories refused to die alongside their players. The desert sun cast long shadows over a scene that would birth a legend. The stage driver's single shot rang across the wasteland like Judgment Day, but what followed would haunt men's dreams for generations. As gun smoke cleared and dust settled, the driver crept forward, expecting to find one dead bandit cooling in the sand. Instead, his blood ran cold at the sight before him. 2 bodies sprawled in death's embrace. The evidence told a tale darker than mere robbery. One man had fallen to the driver's lead, true enough, but the other, his death spoke of betrayal black as a raven's wing. A bullet hole in his back whispered of greed's ultimate price. The gang's leader, it seemed, had decided that 3 shares would spend better than 4, and sealed the deal with hot lead, even as they fled with their prize. The driver stood there, desert wind pulling at his coat, piecing together this grim puzzle. The first dead man still clutched his reins, horse long fled. The second lay face down, hand frozen reaching for a gun he'd never draw. 2 men who'd ridden together, plotted together, died together, one by justice, one by treachery. Their blood soaked into the same patch of hungry desert soil, while somewhere out there their killer rode on, saddlebags heavy with both gold and guilt. Such was the nature of frontier justice and human greed, that sometimes the most dangerous enemy wasn't the man you were robbing, but the partner riding at your side. The driver would later say he'd never seen honor among thieves, but he'd never seen its absence painted quite so red before. The blood-stained gold drove the 2 surviving bandits toward Vallecito Station, their saddlebags heavy with both riches and fresh murder. Between the station and slaughter, they stopped to bury their fortune, the desert swallowing their secret like a grave. At the station, they ordered whiskey and food like ordinary travelers, but guilt and greed hung between them thick as gun smoke. The leader excused himself with a snake smile, promising words yet to come. What came instead wrote itself into legend. He burst through the doorway astride a magnificent white stallion, gun blazing with betrayal's fire. But his partner, gut-shot and dying, squeezed off one last round of frontier justice. 2 shots, 2 killers, and both found their mark. The great white horse, spooked by death's sudden dance, bolted through the door and into myth. They say that phantom stallion still haunts the hills where stolen gold lies sleeping. Around midnight, when desert shadows run like water, it materializes from thin air. A ghost born of greed and treachery, eternally searching for its dead master, or perhaps guarding the cursed treasure that sparked its legend. But the white horse isn't alone in its haunting. 2 Texas emigrants, Buck and Roland, their pride worth more than their lives, fell to each other's guns in a deadly duel. Their restless spirits now walk the station's weathered halls, perhaps still seeking resolution to their fatal quarrel. More fearsome still is the phantom stage that rolls through Carrizo Wash, its wheels silent as a grave. 4 spectral mules pull this ghost coach while a shadow driver handles reins that haven't been real since the 1860s. The tale goes that this very stage left El Paso carrying golden fortune, its guard fallen ill in Yuma. The lone driver met his end between Fish and Coyote Mountains, where bandits' bullets found him. But death, it seems, couldn't stop his final run. The stage rolled on toward Vallecito Station with its dead driver still at the reins before vanishing into legend like morning mist. Some say it still makes that last run, carrying its phantom cargo through the endless night of the American frontier. Moonlit nights in Carrizo carry more than just shadows. The phantom stage still makes its eternal run, they say, wheels spinning silent as a hangman's rope through the silver-wash sand. At the ruins of old Carrizo Station, it pauses, a ghost remembering its last moments of life, before vanishing like smoke into the vast desert night. Come dawn, fresh tracks mark the sand, as if death itself had carved its signature into the earth. But it's the White Lady of Vallecito who claims the crown of the station's most haunting presence. Eileen O'Connor's story cuts deeper than any bandit's blade. A young bride-to-be racing west to meet her golden future, only to find her grave instead. She arrived in the late 1850s, already dancing with death, had to be carried from the stage like a broken bird. Her Sacramento dreams, her waiting fiancé who'd struck gold in the Sierra Mother lode, all of it slipped away over 2 fever-racked days. The station folk found bitter poetry in dressing her cold form in the white wedding gown from her trunk, laying her in unmarked earth that would never see a wedding dance. But Eileen, it seems, refused to accept her curtain call. From almost the moment they tamped down her grave, folks began seeing her ghostly figure pacing the station grounds, eternally waiting for a stage that will never carry her to her love. Today, she rests in Campo Santo Cemetery alongside 2 other lost souls, though rest might be too peaceful a word for her eternal vigil. But perhaps the most enigmatic spirits of Vallecito take the form of mysterious lights that dance across Oriflamme Mountain like demons' lanterns. First reported by a Butterfield driver in 1858, these ghostly orbs, dubbed ghost lights by the fearful, bob and weave through the dark like lost souls seeking harbor. Soldiers, hardened prospectors, and weathered explorers all reported the same uncanny sight. Burning spheres that lit up the night sky over Borrego Valley like nature's own fireworks. By the 1880s, these phantom flames had become so bright they turned night to day over the Vallecito Mountains, living up to Oriflamme's French meaning of golden flame. Whether they're the spirits of lost travelers, ancient tribal magic, or something else entirely, these mysterious lights continue their ethereal dance, adding another layer to Vallecito's tapestry of supernatural tales.